The number one rule of chisel safety is to keep it sharp. A dull chisel is a dangerous chisel, as it requires more effort to push it through the wood, and the more effort you put, the less control you will have. In this episode of Woodworking Beginner's Guide series, I will show you 2 easy methods to sharpen your chisel to this level. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Woodworking Beginner's Guide series. Blade sharpening in general requires a set of skills and tools to get good results, and takes time to master, particularly if you decided to learn how to do it with free hands without the aid of a honing jig. If you are a casual woodworker who doesn't frequently need to sharpen his tools, then you better use a honing guide. Unless you are a professional woodworker who can sharpen tools free-handed, then I assume that you won't be watching this. The first thing you should do when sharpening a chisel for the first time is to grind its back flat, as it is seldom to find a chisel with a flat back out of the box in the mid-range type. You can check how flat is the back of a chisel by grinding it against a flat water stone or a diamond stone, as you will see. Once you get the back of the chisel flattened, then you can start working on the front bevel of the chisel. That usually ranges between 25 to 30 degrees. And once this main bevel is achieved, you can add a secondary 5 degrees bevel to the first 1/8 of an inch of the chisel blade. This will make it faster and easier to sharpen the next time you need to sharpen your chisel. You can use water as a lubricant to wet your sharpening stone. However, I don't recommend using water only on the diamond stone, as the water left between the diamond particles can cause rust on the diamond plate over time and affecting the plate flatness. Adding some anti-freeze or car cooling solution to the water will reduce rust building up on the diamond plate over time, or you can buy a commercial solution made for this purpose. There are many sharpening stone types in the market today, and they can range between $10 up to $800 for one stone. But that doesn't mean that you need to spend that much to get your chisel blade razor sharp. With the technique that I am about to show you, you can use 2 stones only to get your blade as sharp as this. To begin the sharpening process, you need a flat surface. I had this piece of aluminum flattened to an acceptable level and will be using it as my reference surface. You can also use any flat surface that will not rust. A float glass or a piece of marble should do the trick. Then spray some adhesive to the front of the flat reference. Then attach the front edge of the sandpaper to it and leave the adhesive to dry. Once the adhesive is dry, stretch the sandpaper enough to ensure it is setting flat on the reference surface. Then glue the other end like so. Leave the adhesive to completely dry before you start sharpening. This depends on the type of the adhesive that you are using, so mind that. Do not use epoxy or difficult to remove adhesive, as you will need to remove it whenever you need to change to a finer grit. It is better to sharpen several chisels at a time when using this technique. To reduce the number of times you have to change the sandpaper from fine back to coarse grit. Now apply some water or any grinding solution to the sandpaper block, and do not use oil as a lubricant. Start grinding the back of the chisel first by applying light strokes and by pulling the chisel towards you for better control. The target here is to flatten the first ½ inch of the back of the chisel only, and no more than that is required. You should continue grinding the back until no more low spots left and you start feeling a burr forming on the front edge. Flattening the back of a chisel will only be required for the first time, as once it is ground flat, it will remain flat, unless you accidentally dropped it on the floor and caused damage to the sharp edge. To be able to ground an accurate bevel on any chisel, it will be easier to use a honing guide, or maybe making one yourself. The honing guide will hold the chisel bevel flat on the sharpening stone at any required angle by simply using stop blocks that are located at different distances between the chisel sharp edge and the honing jig. Once you set the bevel angle on the honing jig, you can start the sharpening process by applying a light pressure on the back of the chisel using one hand and steering the jig with the other hand. Remember that light pressure is key for correct sharpening and will also allow you to have a full control over the whole process. Let the grit or the diamond particles to cut the steel for you, and avoid putting unnecessary pressure on your fingers joints. You can start with 400 grits, then move to 800 and to 1200 grits or so on the flat block. After that, you need to switch to a 4000 water stone or extra fine diamond stone, and finally to 12,000 water stone or extra fine diamond stone. As sandpaper is not cheap, you need to consider how often you will be sharpening your tools, as if you need to sharpen a lot of tools frequently, then you need to compare the cost of the sandpaper that you will be using with the cost of 3 or 4 water stones or diamond stones. These stones will serve you very long before they need to be replaced. Water stone needs to be flattened after every use, or it will become concave or hollow. To do that, you need to buy a flattening stone, or use this technique. Start with the water stone on the top of the flattening stone and make 10 strokes or so. Then flip them over and do another 8 strokes. Keep the numbers random, not exactly the same. Test the flatness of the water stone with a straight edge and stop as soon as it becomes flat. Any more strokes after that considered as a waste. Remember that diamond stone does not need to be flattened. You can use water only on water stones without the anti-rust solution, as they do not rust like the diamond stones. Stropping is optional and is nothing more than a leather strop charged with some polishing compound, but will reward you with a mirror-like finish on your chisel and a razor-sharp edge. Remember to pull the blade when stropping and never push it forward, as it will damage your strop. In the end, I hope the information shared on this episode will help you to improve your sharpening skills and techniques. Thank you for watching, and happy woodworking!